Hi, and welcome to another episode of Nursing Your Way to Wealth, where a mental health nurse and an accountant talk about wealth creation, personal development, and financial independence in the UK to help you live the life you deserve. Hello, and welcome back. This is episode 2 of Nursing Your Way to Wealth. Today, we're going to cover probably the most boring aspect of finances, which is budgeting and reviewing expenses. So, I'm here with Alex as well. Alex, you're more financial kind of literate than me. Why is it important?
Yeah, hi everybody, and yeah, welcome back. So, as Alex mentioned, we're talking about budgeting, and what can sound quite a dull and boring and restrictive process is really quite important I guess, a number of angles. Firstly, you can't control what you don't manage and what you don't understand, and so budgeting it offers that first level of helping you understand where your money's coming in, where it's going, and you're moving to that position where you're starting to tell your money where you're going to be putting it, and you then get control, and you can then help achieve your financial objectives.
Yeah, so if I'm hearing you right, and correct me if I'm kind of off kilter here, it gives you a bit more ability to know where your money's going, so you have less anxiety around, oh, is my card going to get declined? Can I afford that? And I get it with financial progress and things like that. It's not a sprint. It's a bit of a marathon. You're going to have to manage it for hopefully a long and happy and healthy life. And it makes you kind of think about what you can actually do for money, how money can help you, rather than it mastering you. You become its master.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's a lot of cases where money is an intimidating thing. Certainly in our country, in the UK, it's got a lot of control over people. It's a bit of a taboo, and the more you know about and start kind of, if you're on the front foot with it, um, you yeah, so you'll have your own financial objectives, and budgeting is the surefire way of getting to know exactly if you're going to be able to achieve those objectives. And I think, Alex, your point about your um, reducing anxiety is definitely a massive one, and one of the big reasons to budget. You take out a lot of you, you almost surface all of your financial your financial health, and by doing that you reduce and remove any uncertainty, which is, I think, a big cause of anxiety.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely agree. So, there's something I haven't told you before, but I'm a big proponent of thinking about financial health, mental health, and physical health as a collective, as the three of them. And I really get it. Budgeting is boring. People think of books full of sums and having to work out how many pounds you've got here and whether you can afford that. And honestly, our brains don't like doing hard things because the benefit is too far away for our brains to easily comprehend it. The part of the brain that does that is your anterior lateral prefrontal cortex, which is a long way of saying the bit, the front of your head just above your eyebrows. Anterior just means front. So it's the front part of your brain. It's responsible for longer term planning. And it's the exact same way, similar for investing. Our brains love rest and digest. Everything's easy, nothing's a problem, don't have to think about the future. So it will actively try and put itself in that mode. So it is a difficult thing. So the one thing when I started budgeting a couple of years ago, I said to myself, I'll just start for 2 minutes. I'll get a pen and paper and I'll just begin. And it allowed my brain to forget the hard part of that. And I did make some progress and it's made a big difference to my financial life. And it's giving your brain the ability to avoid anxiety in the long run by dealing with a bit of it now.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And do you find, I guess, once you've got started and over that initial hesitation of wanting to, I guess, avoid doing the work, because it's do you find it actually gets a bit easier and you get into a bit of a rhythm, and then it, in a way, almost becomes but enjoyable might be the wrong word. Do you find that once you kind of get over that initial hump, it becomes easier?
I think enjoyable and finances and budgets are never something that most people put together. Some people probably do enjoy it, but I found that once I'd started doing it and I could see some of the progress I could make, it does become much easier because then a known entity. brains don't like unknowns or uncertainty. So our brains will chuck in anything to avoid doing a hard task. So if anyone's ever written an essay for university, you'll know that cleaning the ceiling of your bathroom is 100% more important than writing an essay on economics. Your brain will do anything it can do to appease itself to not want to do hard things, which is why instant gratification is such a difficult thing to overcome. I would 100% rather eat pizza and watch Netflix than go through budgets for another week. It's just how our brains work, and it's something you have to teach yourself. The longer you spend learning and teaching yourself, the easier you'll find it. You're right.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I'm not one to. I wouldn't say I enjoy it, but I certainly find it's quite therapeutic when doing when I was certainly first starting doing budgeting, um, and it almost became a bit of an addiction, making sure I knew exactly where every penny was going. I mean, that's definitely loosened a little bit over the last few years as I get really comfortable with knowing where my money's coming in and going to. Um, but yeah, it's the psychological impact is really interesting because yeah, I've definitely had those times where yeah, cleaning the bathroom ceiling, as you mentioned, seems much more palatable and interesting than doing any budgets.
Yeah, I don't know where I pulled that from. I think in the back of my mind, I've been thinking that I need to clean my bathroom ceiling for unknown reasons, or maybe just my extractor fan. So, if someone is looking to take a bit more control over their finances and they want or have been told or read about starting a budget and dealing with it, like you're someone who's been through it, like you said, you got a little bit kind of addicted to it. How would you begin? What's the simplest way that someone can begin kind of making progress in this area?
I think there's a couple of important steps to do first. So I think one is to set yourself some objectives. And so what do you want to achieve with your money? So is that and try and probably do this in a short, medium, and long term. So it could be within the next 6 months, I want to have could be £1,000 saved up in a is an emergency fund, or within 5 years, I want to have could be £20,000 saved up for a house deposit, or it could be I want to be saving 20% of my income in investments. It could be any of those things, but it's important to know where you want to be, essentially where you're going and what your objective is. It is a good, really important first step.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because then if you pick a target, say for example, you want, I think you said £500 in a savings account, you can actually see that grow when you save money places and you transfer it to wherever you keep your savings. You can see it grow. And I suppose, does it then become easier to do because £10 turns into 50, turns into £80, and you don't feel deprived from doing that, but you feel the benefits of doing it?
Yeah, exactly that. And when you have that objective and you have that goal, and you know why you're doing it, that's the really important thing. It does become yeah, doing the budgets and being more disciplined with your money really does help. And it does, and having that the why always in your mind makes it a lot easier. And also it makes those decisions. Let's say you're at the supermarket or the shops, and you could be, you know, if you're a natural impulse buyer, um, you, you could be, oh well, actually, this £30 I could spend on this, you know, insert name of whatever it is, the widget or the dress or the few pints of beer after work. I could do that now, get that instant gratification. It feels good. It's nice and easy. Or that's an extra £30 to put towards my emergency fund or my holiday or my, you know, kids savings account. And when you know that you've set that objective and that, you know, you've got that anchor, it does just help you then certainly implementing your plan, of which you'll have, you know, you will control by implementing it and starting a budget.
Sure, yeah, I get it. I've been the victim of impulsive purchases before in the past, and it's like when you're there and you're looking at the thing and all the kind of buying psychology is there, and you're like, oh my god, I definitely need this, whatever it may be, and then you get home and you're like, oh, did I actually need it? Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. Well, it's too late now. It's too much hassle to take it back and get a refund. So I'll just keep it. And that becomes a sunk cost. And like you say, once the money's been spent somewhere, it's then lost. You can't repurpose it for something else. So is it as simple as I don't know, just writing down your expenses, or have you used a like an app I know some people use spreadsheets and stuff. So how do you go about it?
Yeah, I personally use a spreadsheet. I mean, that I'm an accountant by training, so I've only ever known spreadsheets. And in terms of practicalities of doing it, so I mean, I personally use an Excel spreadsheet. There's no issue of using pen and paper or some of the apps. I mean, I've used, I think it was the Emma app before to try and set something up, and also the money dashboard, which is connects to your bank account, and you can then go in and manually categorize spending. I find personally doing the Excel spreadsheet is the works best for me. I don't think there's a right or wrong. I think it's whatever you find suitable, and works for you best. And the way I would always recommend going about it is going through between 3 and 6 months worth of your bank and credit card statements. Activity changes month to month, and I think that gives a good sample size to kind of review as a starting point to kind of start reviewing your expenses.
Yeah, that does make a lot of sense. While you were talking, I was just thinking about the difference between when you said monthly expenses can change. They will absolutely change. The only kind of known thing is in life that it's going to be unpredictable. So I was thinking about kind of annual expenses. So, for example, I don't know, your car MOT, an insurance bill for your dog or your house or something. You can either pay those kind of annual insurances monthly and pay an extra interest rate, or you can pay them in one go. It's cheaper to pay them in one go, and that way you're not paying the extra interest, but it costs a bit more in one kind of hit. So if you say you have, I don't know, to make it simple, £120 worth of MOT bill a year, obviously it could be wildly different. But if you understand that, then you can save the £10 a month over 12 months to make the 120. You're probably not going to miss £10 a month. But when that bill comes around, you can say, actually, I have the money for this. So you don't then have to think, where am I going to get it from? Who can I borrow it from? Oh, I need to use a credit card again, but it's close to its limit, etc., etc. It takes away a little bit of that anxiety, and it's really the hard work for you that your budgeting that you've been doing, paying you back for your diligence of doing it. So I think in that respect, it can buy you a bit of relief, and a lot less worry about it.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, and it's something that's exactly what I do. With house insurance, car insurance, we have I, me and my partner, we've got a joint account in which we calculate every month how much money we need to be attributing to those annual expenses. We also put some money in there for Christmas and other kind of birthday gifts. And so then by the time you get to the point when those are due, there's no, you've got an amount set aside, and it's nice and easy, and there's no big spike at the end of the month, when these big bills come due.
Yeah, definitely. I've heard people say that Christmas and January are always expensive months, but in the back of my head, I'm like, well, you know it's coming. You get at least 12 months' notice of each of those events. Similar with a car MOT. Something you said a minute ago about having a joint account with your partner. I was just going to ask you a question about it, and don't answer if you're not happy to. But do you think you spend less because your partner can see what you spend and where it goes?
No, definitely not. I'm not the spender at all. The way that this is very much for like joint. It just the joint bills for the house. So it's like a lot of our utility bills and um, is it the annual expenses that we will save up monthly for. So that's kind of where that money is, but it's not. So we're pretty equal actually. That goes into that account, but we then have separate credit cards, which my bill tends to be a bit lower, if not a lot lower every month. But um, no, I don't know if do you have a similar situation in your household?
No, my credit card bill is way higher than my wife's bill. But obviously, I pay it all off every month. Never pay any credit card interest. Just get some rewards or cashback or flight points or something from that. I'm just wondering about the idea of kind of sharing spending and splitting income, because I think it's unlikely to think that you and your partner or mine and my wife or whoever, couple, married, whatever, somewhere, earn exactly the same amount of money. I've always thought it's a good idea to split things as a percentage. So you put 50% of what you earn, say, or a different figure, into a joint account to cover spending. That way, if there is an earning discrepancy, and we know there's pay gaps and things like that, and people earn different amounts for different jobs, if you're both putting 50% in and you have 50% remaining, perhaps that's a good way of dealing with it. Or do you have different thoughts on? I've heard some people say that one of the partners pays for the mortgage, one of them pays for everything else, or splitting it a different way.
Yeah, it's a really good question, and I don't think there's a one size fits all answer. It's I think what's really important with couples is that they do talk about money and that they come to a fair arrangement between themselves, whatever that may be. I know certainly, we're fairly fortunate, but me and my partner are very similar amounts, and so 50-50 on things is not an issue. I know from my parents, I think my dad did exactly that. He'd pay the mortgage, and my mum would pay for the groceries. Um, but I think it comes down to that communication between couples and being open and honest about financial situations, and then coming to the right resolution, and whether that's the 50-50, or whether that's somebody paying for one large item, somebody not the other. It's really individual, but it's really important to talk, because that's one of the biggest causes of arguments and divorce is always around money. So yeah, that's the main thing to, in my view, is yeah, get talking.
Yeah, I'd absolutely agree. Conversations around money are, I think, really important and not anywhere near talked about enough. I think of the taboo topics, people would probably rather tell you about their religious beliefs or their sex life compared with money. It's just something that I feel wrongly isn't discussed enough. So it's really important to have your partner, husband, wife, spouse, or whatever, on board with something like that. You don't want to feel like you're doing all the heavy lifting in terms of budgeting and tracking and being financially astute if your partner's kind of on the other foot and, in your opinion, is not pulling their own weight. So do talk about it little and often. I definitely wouldn't suggest a formal kind of meeting on a Wednesday evening or something about it, but just start dropping it into conversations. Let the other person know you're happy to talk about it and how it will benefit both of you. I remember when I first spoke to my wife about making monetary investments, it was something that initially she was a bit fearful of, but then we talk about it more and more, and eventually she came round to the idea. So maybe we'll cover that in a future episode of discussing monetary things with people close to you.
Yeah, I think that would be a really good episode. And certainly in our household, y- yeah, my partner's really come around to the way of thinking, and she's investing. She's aggressively investing now, which she'd never done before. But it's you know just started with conversation and education, and started with small amounts, and those have grown over the last few years. And it's really powerful when you start working as a team, how when you're both rowing in the same direction and have both got the same objectives, it's such a great way of that you supercharge your progress towards achieving any financial objective by working together.
Yeah, definitely. Two people working in the same direction will always get there more quickly, I think, than just one person. Yeah, for sure. So, say you've got a budget. I mean, the important things with budgeting, we've said about setting some financial goals. This probably goes without saying, but obviously make sure you're not spending more than you make. If you spend more than you make, you're having to borrow, rely on credit cards or something. It isn't going to work. the compounding in interest will work against you, and eventually you're not going to be swimming or rowing, you're going to sink. I'm not sure where we've got these water-based analogies from, but we're going to run with them. So I think the important thing is be more conscious and mindful about where you're at and where you want to be, because once you understand where you currently are and where you want to get to, it can help you with a financial map of how you can achieve what you want to achieve. So, for example, if you want to spend I don't know, say £5,000 on a family holiday in 2 years' time, you need to save £2,500 a year, and then you can divide that up into a monthly amount, and it doesn't seem quite so scary. If you think, oh, I need 5 grand, I'm never going to get 5 grand, that's a lot of money. But if you break it up into a monthly amount, it would only be a couple of £100. I mean, my maths is not good enough to wangle that on the spot. I should have picked easier numbers. But it's about making your brain tolerate it, I think.
Yeah, and I think just to add to that as well, when you've got the say when you set your objective, and the £5,000 is a great example. When you start looking through your numbers and starting to look at your expenses and your income, I think rather than having the mindset of, well, I can't do that, it's you should flip it and be talking about, well, how can I do that, and how can we work together so we can put that £200 a month away to contribute to that holiday. And I think that shift in mindset, it can be really powerful.
Yeah, definitely. I thought you did the maths. I don't know if you've done it in your head, but if you want £5,000 over two years, it basically works out to like you said, £208 per month. You'd need to save for 24 months, makes 5,000, give or take a couple of pence, and that £208, it's £104 per person, and that's much more palatable than, oh my god, I need 5 grand. It's much easier to think about, oh, I'll do a standing order for £104. My partner will do the same, and in 2 years we get to go on a cracking holiday. And I think that's a lot more motivating than, oh, it's too expensive, I'm never going to be able to afford it. So once we've kind of got a handle on budgets, we're spending less. How do we move forward with that?
So yeah, I think once you've got your numbers, and I think what you said is really good in terms of breaking it down. And when you start looking at it in a monthly amounts, these insurmountable goals actually don't seem that far away, and seem very achievable. And the way that what's important with any budget is you see it as a plan, and it should be seen as an enabling plan. It's not there to restrict you, but it's important to, I think, review the budget at least once a month. The way I do it is on my kind of on my payday. I'll know, I kind of go through the previous month, and plan my next month in terms of where my money's gone, and review that. And it's looking at, well, what should I have spent against certain categories. So you can, one powerful way of looking at your financials is you try and bucket your expenses. So you could have, I look at them in a couple of ways. One is essential expenses, so those could be your rent, mortgage, your utility bills, your groceries, and then you have your discretionary expenses. So these are your, could be, going out to the cinema, buying clothes, eating out. So things which are very nice to have, but they're not essential living expenses. And it's then reviewing it and saying, well, how much should I have spent against each of these buckets versus what did I spend? There's plenty of ways of doing this through on Excel models, or just using your pen and paper, a little a nice journal that you have, or some of the money apps. But it's whatever works for you. But it's important to review kind of where you should have been, versus where you are, and to make sure that you're still on track, and then to make any adjustments going forward. So do I need to be spending a little bit less in the supermarket, or do I need to go out one time less this month, or actually I'll have my friends over rather than going out for dinner this month to claw back some of that money, which I can then repurpose and put towards your objective, whether that's saving for your holiday, or a bit of money for emergencies, or that car repair that you weren't expecting. And so it's that constant, I wouldn't say obsessing over it. It's not a nice place to be at when you're obsessed, but it's looking at, it's being very mindful and reviewing it, and being very open and honest with yourself, ultimately, you're putting this in place to help your future self achieve something, and it's making sure that you're on track to do that. Um, and dedicating a day, have like a money day where you can go through your expenses, um, and your incomes. It is one way that you can do it, and make it fun. Like, go to do it with you and your partner. Um, the, the more engaging and the nicer it is, the much more likely you are to succeed at doing this. It's a nobody enjoys it. But it really, really helps in terms of making sure you're going to meet your future objectives.
Absolutely, yeah, agree with you. I think as well, it doesn't have to be perfect from the get go. Something is better than nothing. Some action is better than no action. Even if you, I don't know, say for example, don't buy a particular thing, and you manage to save yourself £20 that month, it's still better than being in a negative balance, or not saving any money at all. And having a little bit of spare money around when the inevitable, unpredictable things do happen, it can really take the pressure off with things. And I know we've talked a bit about an emergency fund, which is just a pot of money you have spare in case things go badly wrong, and you need some money to get you out of a pickle. You then have it. You don't have to stress about it. It removes some of the stress rather than adding to it. I think reviewing is a good idea. Initially, reviewing is a good idea. But as you say, don't be anally obsessive about where every last penny is going. Um, it's more about adding fulfillment and enjoyment and removing the negative anxiety and the stresses in your life, rather than knowing exactly to the penny how much is in each of your accounts. That's, in my opinion, wasted brain space that could be used to do other things for sure. So we've discussed budgeting and also kind of reviewing expenses. Is there anything else, Alex, you want to discuss about those two kind of particular aspects? Because I've got one other thing that I'd just like your thoughts on, and it's something that we haven't discussed before, at least before recording as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would just I think your point on it doesn't have to be perfect is exactly that, and something is better than nothing. Like, this shouldn't be a huge mammoth exercise that is taking up all of your headspace. It's very much just it's getting one. It's knowing where you're spending your money, and evaluating it. How valuable is that item or that thing to me, and is it worth the money? One thing as well is, which it can be quite powerful, is if you start to look at your expenses in the way of, well, how long would I have to work in order to afford that? That's a good way of evaluating your kind of certainly your discretionary spending. But as a from experience, I've been budgeting for like 6, 7 years probably, and you, you get to a point where what used to take you 2 hours now just takes 15 minutes, because you know exactly where your money's going. You're very mindful of it, which I think you change your mindset really with something like this, and it can really help become a lot more mindful, and help you set your and achieve your objectives.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, especially about how many hours would you have to work to buy the thing, the service, the object, whatever it may be. Did you get that from a book by Vicky Robin, Joe Dominguez, which is Your Money or Your Life? Because I originally came across it in that book, and it made me stop and pause and just think about my earning potential, how much I earn per hour, and then how much of my hours I would spend on a particular item. And I think at the time, this is many years ago, I worked out after taxes and national insurances and stuff, I was earning about £11 cash in my pocket per hour. And I wondered whether then, is this thing for example, £88, is it worth 8 hours of my working? And often I'd think, actually, that's a whole day's work that you've grafted and you've put in to buy one item. And a lot of the times I would come up with, no, it's actually not worth that. And I would see if I can maybe get the thing secondhand, or I could get it for any less. But I wouldn't spend all day trying to get a deal out of it because I might as well have just gone to work and earn the money for it. But I think it's a good way of valuing your time, definitely.
Yes, and I did get that from Your Money or Your Life, which is a massive recommendation from me to any of the listeners, because that book really drills in to the reader. You are trading your time for money, and you've got to be really aware of how finite your time is and make sure that you're optimizing it really. And that, calculating your hourly rate, um, and then applying that to any purchase decision it's very eye opening. I can't remember what my hourly rate was. I need to update it now uh, for my new job, but it's definitely a lot lower than you would think it is, especially when you start capturing commuting time, the time that you're actually thinking about work, and the money that you spend in order that you know that you have to do just purely to get to work and to operate at work.
Yeah, don't talk to me about commutes. I've just changed jobs and it's saved me 15 hours a week in commuting, let alone fuel costs, car maintenance. Time is another huge thing. Yeah, the book Your Money or Your Life is actually really, really good. It's one of the first books on finances I read. It's definitely on Audible, but it's also available via the app called Libby, which links with your local library. The paper copy of the book there is free, so you don't need to spend your extra money on that. I think as well, we've talked about making these tasks like budgeting, reviewing expenses, making them palatable or tolerable for people. There's another book called Atomic Habits, written by a man called James Clear. He's got four um, laws basically of making things easier for you. So with something like, let's take budgeting for an example, he says number one is make it obvious. So put the book or the spreadsheet or something, make it open when you first open your laptop, put the book on the middle of your dining room table or somewhere where you'll see it. So you don't have to actively think about it. Number two is make it attractive. Wear something comfortable, light a candle if you want, have a beer while you're doing it, use a really nice notebook and pen. Number three is make it easy. So don't spend hours and hours like agonizing over it. Just commit to spending 10 minutes looking through your finances to make an improvement. And number four is a bit self-explanatory, is make it satisfying. So you should be satisfied with a better handle on your finances, and it gives you a bit more freedom to really make your money work for you, or even to get yourself something nice. We don't propose just doing nothing fun. So if you have saved £50 over a couple of weeks and you really want to go somewhere that costs some money, do it. Treat yourself to those things. You'll get much more mentally back from doing something fun and enjoyable than you will from having an extra £50 stashed somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, what great advice, and it's a great book as well, Atomic Habits, and I think that's yeah the nicer you can make budgeting and reviewing your numbers, more people will do it, and ultimately the more people are going to have a much better control over their finances, and will be helping to achieve that objective of helping 1 million people in the UK improve their numbers and improve their finances. Um, One thing I just also wanted to just shout out is I run a website also called financialfreedomunlocked.co.uk, and within there is I've just it's a free 5-day email course all up, and it's called Learn to Control Your Money. So it's one email a day, and it's a nice printout just of some tips and guidance on really what we've been talking about. So I say if you're inclined, please go and take a look. It's within the courses section of that website.
Yeah, so Alex, if you give me a link to that, I'll put it underneath in the notes of this podcast episode. I have looked at your website before, but I did not know that was there. So clearly, I didn't do a very good job of kind of searching around it. My bad, will improve in future. And I think that's something that it's again law three of James Clear's work in Atomic Habits. Make it easy. If Alex has done all of that work, and it sounds like he's done it, let him take some of the strain and send you these prompts each day. It makes it 100% easier if someone else does some of the work for you. So involve your partner, husband, wife, spouse, and use Alex's extra notes there to be really, really helpful. I think that's probably it from me. Alex, is there anything else you want to add?
No, I think it's been a really good session, and let's say hopefully people found that interesting and useful. And I like the introduction of some of the more the psychological elements of it. I think it's really important. Again, just the mental health impact on finance, and having that grip over your numbers really helps on the mental health side.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's much more my thing than finances. Having a good grasp of your finances gives you so much relief from the negative aspects of mental health, and we as humans are primed to listen and take in and absorb negatives because it's what keeps us alive, keeps you safe. If you wander off in a jungle, you're much more likely to get bitten by a snake or eaten by something than if you stick with the pack. So it's that negativity that's stuck with us, which gives us our fear response. It is really the reason we're alive because I mean, Alex, if we take your family, for example, multiple generations of your family have all lived so you can live today. That wouldn't have happened if they weren't fearful. So fear is a natural inbuilt thing. It's in the deepest part of your brain, a bit called the amygdala, which is responsible for anxiety, fight, freeze, or flight responses. And it's something that we can't really turn off. And when that bit comes into your brain, the rational part of your head disappears totally because you don't need to think rationally if you're running for your life or you're fighting for your life. So it is something you can learn to manage, and we might touch a bit more on that. But until then, kind of be kind to yourself. Even if you have a book and you write budget on the front, that's more than you did yesterday. It's steps certainly in the right direction. So if you have made a start, keep going, keep stepping in the right direction. If you haven't, make it your thing within the next week to at least start a spreadsheet, get a book, buy yourself a new pen. As long as it's not a Mont Blanc, I think you're going in the right direction. And start taking some steps to consciously be more mindful of your spending and improve your financial life.
That was really really insightful, actually, what you just said about the fear response. And yeah, so hopefully everybody's enjoyed that, and found it useful. And yeah, keep listening out for the next episode.
Cool, that's a wrap. Thanks for listening. See you next time. None of what we discuss on the show is to be considered financial or health advice, and we recommend you always do your own research or consult an independent financial advisor or a doctor when making your financial or health decisions.